Welcome to Kollective Konversations. Today's show is presented in partnership with Just a Bunch of Felons, an organization committed to helping individuals move beyond their past and build successful futures. An interview is more than a conversation. It's an opportunity to tell your story, an opportunity to showcase your growth, an opportunity to prove that your future is greater than your past. Too many people miss opportunities not because their lack of potential, but because their lack of preparation. Today, we're talking about interview preparation, building confidence, making strong first impressions, answering tough questions, and positioning yourself for success. Because when preparation meets opportunity, doors open. And sometimes one interview can change a life. Let's get into it.
I want to thank everybody for being here. And this title of the show is called Internet Ready, Turning Opportunities into Employment. And I think it's a big key when we're going out there for whoever it may be, a person that, who had recently just, have been incarcerated and getting out, or just a young, person trying to get a job itself, or someone just trying to change jobs as well. So while like I said, I'm super happy to, have this partnership with Just a Bunch of Felons, but and definitely helping, this Kiana Moore and, some of her missions, what she's doing as well. But this is for everybody. This isn't just for that as well. Because the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be prepared. And that's what we need to be. We need to be prepared. So we have a bunch of some topics we're going to go over, especially, like I said, Internet Ready, again, is what it's called. Turning opportunities into employment, basically, is what we're going to talk about. The first question I have for everyone here, and welcome Nick and Chad as well, and Mike as well. Welcome you all for being here. I'll thank you later for something else, but the first question I got, opening question: what makes a great first impression during an interview? What do you think?
I believe that the key, from the perspective of someone that's been on the interviewer's side, I think that the key that I look for is the person, all the key signs that the person that I'm interviewing really wants that job. If that person didn't show up on time for the interview, they don't really want the job. If they're wearing, if it's an office setting job and they're wearing inappropriate clothes, they don't really want the job. So, all the things that you can control that show that you really do desire a job, I think are one of the key mindsets going in.
Right. And I think you're right. I mean, that's a lot. Anyone else as far as,
dressing appropriately, like you said, being prepared, knowing what questions to ask and what answers to have to the questions that get asked. Things like that.
Right.
I would say, like the body language, do they come in on like kind of, as you said, like confidence in the sense, like how they're walking, which that's first impression is the dressing aspect too, but is their head held high? Do they got nice facial expression, smile on their face? Are they an approachable individual? Things like that.
And I think that's what we're going to get into. A lot of the things you mentioned, that's why I guess, so you're answering a lot of the questions that, really that we're going to go over today.
And, I know we'll get into it more, but I think people sometimes stress too much about being nervous going into an interview, because a little bit of nerves going in, for one, you're going to prepare more. But for two, if I'm interviewing someone and they're a little bit nervous, that shows me that they care.
You're right.
I would rather have that than someone that's coming in with an attitude that I already know, and a little overconfident can actually work against you.
Yeah, right. So to introduce the first topic, common interview questions and how to answer them. Let's talk a little bit about that. Sometimes a lot of, one of the things they talk about is, tell me about yourself. This is what it says, one of the questions that they talk about. Now we'll get into this. I'm going to go over certain ones and then we can go from there. Why do you want to work here? is another one. What are your strengths? What is a weakness you are working on, right? And then why should we hire you?
You don't just say because I want a job. You say something. You give PowerPoints to like letting them know that you know about their company or whatever it is that you're trying to get hired on.
A lot of times, I mean, and like I said, join in and see. A lot of times is, definitely keeping your answer professional and definitely to the point. To the point, what I mean, and that's one of the things it speaks about. Just, another thing, a question they could ask: describe a time you had to overcome a challenge. Is another one they kind of spoke about, and another one, the last one. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? These are just some key ones they talk about as well, and that definitely when we're doing the interview and they frequently ask, and we're going to get into. I'm gonna let you all talk a little bit, but we're going to get into some specific examples of certain, because we now I've told you the question, but what about the interview? The person that that's doing the interview, what about them? They're going to have some ways they're going to have how would I be prepared to handle these questions, especially knowing some background. That's what we're talking about a lot of that. Sometimes if you have a tough criminal background, what are you to say? What are you to say? We're going to get in here in a second, but first, definitely. One of the things, I don't know if you ever done this, I don't, but always avoid negative comments about a former employer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things.
Yeah, something that an employer told me, and this is just a basic way of looking at it. What if you don't work in this place no more? You gonna talk about me like that?
Yeah.
Or they might not have felt they was the worst employer or something like that.
Yeah.
And that can be nothing more than a trap by the interviewer as well, to see if, they might lead you down that road.
Because it could be something in there. That's why I said professional and to the point. And that's a lot of times, I guess, when we go, what is professional? And those are things, like I said before, being straightforward, but also make sure, no jargon, things like that.
Yeah.
Speaking, correct grammar. But sometimes, how it is. Sometimes it's one of those things. We'll talk a little later about grooming. That's the next part, the grooming, the dress, and appearance. We'll talk about that in the next topic. But in this topic, remember I was telling you a little bit about some of the questions. When I say tell you about yourself, well, I'm gonna give you a bad example. All right, I'm gonna give you a bad example. This will be in a person that had been incarcerated. So if I say tell you about yourself, remember I was telling you about being professional.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me about yourself. This is what you asked me. Well, I got locked up a few years ago. I've been struggling to find work since then. Nobody wants to hire me. That's a bad example. Once again, remember I told you being professional, right? And understand. Using another word, well, what would I say? I'm a hard worker. I'm a dependable person who enjoys learning new skills. Think of how that looks.
Yeah.
Listen,
Free.
right. I completed, workforce training training, and I have experience in customer service and janitorial work. I'm looking for an opportunity to contribute to a program or a company where I can continue to grow.
Right.
This is what I'm speaking about. This is telling you a little bit about those things, right? The explaining the criminal background. I see, Mr. Nick, I see you have a gap in your work history. Can you explain that? And this is what gets a lot of people right here, because now, we're trying to, we prepped up, till I just hit you with one.
Yeah.
Right. And now what are we to say? Definitely, I got locked up a few years ago and I'm struggling. Definitely not saying that, right? But what? You ain't being honest. I didn't say that. Here's the answer. Several years ago, I made some bad decisions that resulted in some legal trouble. I take full responsibilities for those choices. Since then, I've completed training programs, gained new skills, focused on being a productive member of my community. Today, I'm committed to building a successful future. Look how that sounds compared to, right.
Very good.
That's it. But those are the things. And like I said before, I know people would think, well, what? Okay, but like I said, even things that we do, we talk about those things. Even with children, we talk about those things. As far as, you're definitely explaining certain things. Because, on their resume, a kid that's 14, 15, they may not have worked anywhere. That's why we're pushing those training skills that they know. I'm a good typer. I mean, it doesn't say that. I mean, I type well, or, I can type 50 words a minute with the speed, right? Definitely, I know how to use Word, Microsoft Word, different things like that in there. So the training is bulked up pretty big because they don't have work experience. So that's, another way as well. So these trainings that, some of the guys who've been incarcerated to get, they mean something, and that's the thing. So keep track of them, have a portfolio or just a book or anything that, like a little folder with all of them in there. If you can't do it, come to us, come to someone, that can kind of help you, kind of formulate this resume to where it shows all these things glaring out there. The question is going to come up.
Right.
Okay. And I get that. But now if I, because what ends up happening is if you do say you've been in some legal trouble right there and they keep on asking, they're going to see it on the background check.
All right.
I came forward. I told you I got in some legal trouble. That's basically what we have. I was with a friend about a couple of weeks ago, and I guess in that state in North Carolina, they have the pending zone as well. So it's not even the fact that not the ones that you've been either convicted with or whatever. They have the pending one. So me and him went over how to answer this, and just giving them kind of giving them some insight on the fact that he wanted to get personal. But there's no need to. The reason why I say it's not that he's not being honest. I get that, but they may take it in another way. So no, just state that it's still being either investigated or still in investigation, still in litigation, right? And then we go from there. But don't put in that box by telling everything. And that's not me saying being dishonest. I didn't say be dishonest. I didn't say that. I just said to go ahead, let them know, be professional, and be to the point of what you're speaking about as well. Anybody else got any?
I'll say that when it comes to these common interview questions, it helps to know exactly what the employer is looking for in the questions that they ask. And that will kind of help you lead your answer into the correct direction. So just like from the questions that you stated earlier, one of them is tell me about yourself. They don't want to know your full history from birth or anything like that. They want to find relevant information pertaining towards the job that you're interviewing towards.
Right.
Okay. What do you want? Why do you want to work here? They want to know if you know things about the business, if you have interest inside the job there. What are your strengths? They're trying to find strengths that they can utilize in the job. What are your weaknesses and how are you working on them? They want to know if you're an accountable person, if you're a person who is working on yourself, and just trying to build and not just a stagnant individual. Describe a time you overcame a challenge. That's specifics. They want us to hear real world examples from your past of how you solved some type of problem. Okay, and where do you see yourself in 5 years? A lot of people mistake what they're looking for here. They think they're talking about your own future and your own successes. No, they want to hear if you mention that business inside of that 5 years.
Yeah.
Because if you do, they might have a long-term employee. If you don't, they don't have a long-term employee, and that's not probably what they want.
100%.
That's a good point. That reminds me of another question that often trips up interviewees, and that is simply at the end of most interviews, the interviewer will say, "Do you have any questions for me?"
Mm-hmm.
Al, that may seem like after the fact, after the post-interview question even, but it's not. At least it wasn't when that was an important question. And as you said, if someone says asks a question like, how do you base promotions? Are they merit-based? Or, that's a good answer, or that's a good question. Because that shows me, one, that they're coming in with the attitude that not only am I planning on sticking around, I'm planning on working hard and advancing. And that's
all right.
The worst answer you can give is no there, because you showed no interest inside of the job at that moment.
right.
So just switching up topics a little bit, tell me about professional appearance, dress, and grooming. Why does appearance still matter? Why does appearance matter?
If you meet the image of the company.
Right.
You know, I think that's probably one of the biggest ones is that, dress code, you know, are you going to be able to align with the dress code that they have there already? Because you are the image of the company if you do end up getting said job.
Right.
You know, but also like it's that first impression. You know, if you come in there a little scruffy or something like that, you know, they might think some type of way. They might feel like, okay, this individual might not
Didn't care enough.
or
Right.
didn't care. Yeah.
Right. Just a real life example. Just even the day before we came on, you know, my daughter's working here, right? She just graduated and she's working here. Well, she has shorts on. So I just called her in there and told her, listen, what's it? You know what she said? I thought about, but that's what I'm saying. It's a learning experience.
It is.
I thought, but yeah, you have to know. You can't. I said, you know, her first question was, you gonna buy me something? Well, we'll talk about it. Because you probably got something up there, right? That you can probably have on. And like I said, I mean, they were nice looking jeans, but jean shorts, but they were shorts. But guess what? If it was hot in here, I get it. It's not. So I mean, it's something you got to dress appropriate.
You know,
So-
I think as far as dress for an interview goes, especially if it's an entry level position, I think, like you said, it's important to represent yourself in a manner that the company that you're applying for a position with wouldn't mind you representing them.
Right.
But also, I think, you know, most companies have a dress code. So I would say don't wear anything that could even possibly be out of sync with a normal dress code,
Might
because
throw it off.
because the manager, most likely they have a position to fill, and if you come in out of left field wearing something out of left field, that's just a hassle that they're going to have to deal with.
Right.
Next, you know. So
Definitely dress on a level up,
yeah.
right? Dress on a
Better to
level.
be overdressed and underdressed.
Of course. I mean, that's a lot of what it is. I
If
mean,
you want to get a mechanic job, go to the interview, maybe in bibs.
You know,
I mean, don't go to if you're going to go to an office job, wear something nice.
yeah, and even if you go into a mechanic's job, you can
Still
dress
wear
up.
something
You can
nice,
you
yeah.
can that day. I mean, I know you saying he may
Yeah.
be busy, he ready to work.
Yeah.
I think that's cool too.
I mean, you got a point. It might be smarter to bring some work boots than
Yeah,
some dress shoes.
no,
on.
I get it. I mean, you're right. I mean, you have to feel that out at least before that, you know. And a lot of times, I know a lot of people, you know, especially either people changing jobs young, just like my daughter said about buying or something, maybe not have the money or maybe not have the wardrobe to fit what the interview is. Put your best on.
Yeah, exactly. Show you care.
That's it. Put your best on. If that's jeans, it's jeans. I mean, if it's slacks, okay, I get it. One of the things we need to learn is though, once we start to getting into the job world, maybe we need to have I'm just saying, I can't say how much they cost, but you can't only think that oh shoot, I ain't having no money for them. We have to prioritize some of these things as well, knowing that we're going to get out there in the job world as well. I didn't say go to Kohl's. Excuse my language. I shouldn't have said it, but I didn't say go to Kohl's or but go somewhere where they're affordable. You can get you a little something. They make looks okay, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. If you can go there. Don't get me wrong, but
It could be a minor investment, toward your future.
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, that's exactly right. Personal hygiene and grooming. What about that? Tell me a little bit.
I'll say a pet peeve. Okay, that I'll say, and I ain't gonna say a pet peeve, but something that I find more apparent in younger individuals when it comes to interviews. Don't spray the whole bottle of cologne or something like that on yourself.
Yeah.
All right, a little bit
Yes.
goes a long way.
Yeah.
That's just simple stuff. But overall, make sure you are well groomed because that goes into your first appearance, your first impressions, and stuff like that. And I mean, most people out there say they're not a judgmental individual, but everybody gives a first impression or has a first impression in their brain. That's a judgment,
Yeah.
So
It is. Yeah.
Definitely. just align in a way where, I mean, make sure you get up early in the morning beforehand, you know, good shower, good grooming, nice haircut, even if it ain't, you know, something that you do often. Well, interview is an important thing. You know, it might be a good time to do so.
100%. I think, you know, that's the way, you know, because here's the thing, employers, they often, you know, decide whether, you know, someone appears professional even before they even ask them a question.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. I mean, even Nick came here today. Somebody noticed, oh man, you got a haircut. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what he must have needed one. You know, but that's the thing. It's just, but it looks like, oh man, he prepared, he ready, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, something that we have to understand, that our appearance does matter, and that those impressions still keep going.
Yeah.
You know, even though. So one last one before we move on to the topic: body language, posture. You have to, you know, be aware of that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially on the side of like your facial expressions. I mean, I know there are a lot of us that like, when we speak, like it's hard for us to put a smile on or something like that, or like when we're thinking or something like that, we might make a little face while thinking of what we're trying to say or something like that. You got to be mindful of that. You know, you get better at it through practice.
Sometimes I'll make this.
Well, I do it
People
all the
think
time.
I'm mad a lot.
I do it all the time. A lot of people think that I am. I'm not. I'm sometimes serious, sometimes not though. You know, but I will tell you this though. You know, I think, you know, in a professional setting though, you need to be professional.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you need to be professional. You need to be. I didn't say you need to be super always serious, but you have to be professional because you never know who's watching, right? So you show an atmosphere of, you know, a certain way, right? I mean, it's, you know, we don't want that to be put out. You have to have a professional atmosphere because, you know, you have other people here and they may be looking and they, oh, this is how the office work. No, it don't work that way. And I don't want it to work that way, right? So yeah, I mean, if I want to talk to Nick, if I want to talk to you, and I'm not trying to be funny, if I want to talk to you about your favorite rock band, maybe I might not do it right here. Maybe I might do it. I'm just saying certain things. But guess what? That might be a conversation talk for some. But remember, professional and short about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and because the interviewer might come with that and say that, then you're getting all into that, right? I mean, that's the thing.
The point.
Right, just straight to the point. Yes, and then
Set up
not being
straight.
rude, but just, you know, definitely going for what we said.
Set up straight. Talk.
Right, 100%.
Good manners.
100%. 100%.
It could possibly be your last interview, you know.
100%. Right.
I said, just adding to that, like it's just something that comes with practice. You know, like take the time if you need to, and you feel like you have rough facial expressions or rough body language, stand in front of a mirror. Practice your interview questions.
Yeah.
You know, watch yourself or record yourself.
A lot of actors do that.
Right. I think this is, you know, for those who are, you know, struggling, you know, who, you know, just are getting, you know, had been incarcerated or getting out. This next topic, we already touched on a little bit. We're just getting more in depth in it, explaining a criminal background professionally, though. I mean, we talked a little bit about it because it came to the scenario of it, but honesty is important. Honesty is important, but like I said before, but you can take responsibility without oversharing. You can do that as well. I'm going to go back to, you know, the answer I made several years ago. This is when I said, tell you about yourself. Several years ago, I made bad decisions, right? I made some decisions that, you know, resulted in legal trouble. I take responsibility for those choices. Since then, I've created training programs, gained new skills, focusing on being a better and productive member of my community. Today, I'm committed to building a successful future. So now you kind of seeing a little bit of what, you know, that entails, but make no mistake about it, take responsibility is one thing. Focus on growth and change, right?
Right.
Highlight trainings like we talked about, education, certifications, and work experience. You know, that's the thing. And transition from your past to your future. I think one of the things that I will want to say is this, and this is the thing I want us to talk about. A formula or a framework that it kind of goes over: acknowledgement, accept responsibility, explain growth, and then focus on the future. Let's talk about the accept responsibility part. This is the whole thing. And this is not only, I mean, this is for people who really don't want to take, and like I said before, don't want to take responsibility for the things that have happened, right? And nobody's, I'm not in here to judge you.
Right.
They did that at court. Not trying to be funny,
Mhm.
but when you fail to accept responsibility that it happened, that's all I'm saying. It happened, serve your time for it, move on. But I know how the world is. They still looking at you like, oh yeah, whatever.
Details.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Not me, but I am saying you accept responsibility when you're. And what I mean by that is, if you're saying, wrongly accused and different things, and I'm not saying people aren't. I'm not gonna sit there and have a blind eye and think that people aren't wrongly accused. Okay, I'm not saying that. But if like I said before, if you've already been released, why not? I mean, and like I said before, once again, I'll tell when we come on here, Chad, come on, Mike, and Nick too. I'm not a professional in this. I'm just speaking professionally about it, but also in a helpful way. But I'm not a professional in this. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not sitting there saying you need to say what you did, what you charged was. What I'm not saying that either.
Right.
But them being accepted in the responsibility to me, and I'm gonna ask you all, I'll let you talk. Is that just moving forward? I made mistakes in the past that resulted in a conviction. Since then, I've been, completed training, gained valuable skills, worked hard. I'm moving forward with it, regardless because that's the thing. We could all, really disagree with something, but that don't mean we stay stuck there, right? We move forward.
Yeah.
Because you might not feel that same way. I mean, tell me a little bit about what you think about accept responsibility when you think about in this topic here.
I mean, if you've done whatever you've done and done your time, you've paid your debt to society. I mean, there's no need in blaring it out, but if you have to explain it, you might as well take accountability.
I made some mistakes. Is that hard to say? I made some mistakes in my past that resulted in conviction.
It's not hard.
But it is. It's not.
It's not, but it is.
But it is.
I know what you're saying, because I've been there.
See, that's what I'm saying. But not being funny. I mean,
and from an employer's perspective, I think a large majority of employers, if you're upfront and honest about it and show the steps that, like Don said, you present it, because that's what an interview is. It's a presentation. You present it the right way. I think the majority of employers are willing to give it a second chance. Some won't, but you're not going to be successful working for them anyway. So I think the key with that is not to be discouraged, not to be bitter, and just stick with honesty and transparency.
Yeah.
and understand it. And I'm good with that. Like I said, when this is by no means, please, people watching, if you have something to say it. That's fine. I mean, we're just trying to help people be prepared for the interview world. Be prepared. So if you have something that you could really add, or website or anything like that, let us know. I mean, like I said before, we're just trying to help in this way, but give some facts. But if it's another way, maybe another statement they can make, put it out there, put it in the comments, and we can go from there. Because I believe that's really where it comes from. Last question I would ask about this is, how can someone discuss their past without allowing it to define them?
Stick with the positive first. I mean, even like kind of how you said, acceptance, it still doesn't mean you have to talk about what was done or did in a negative light. Speak on, like, kind of as you said, the growth and things that you've had after. It's a personal development journey, I think it's just the way in which you speak of the things that you have going on, keeping it in a positive light overall, keep the attitude and the drive a little bit better than if you're at a standpoint of, well, I've interviewed this many times and I ain't got it. I've done this, and that, and it still ain't worked and stuff like that. Gotta keep everything positive.
Right. Get into our wheelhouse a little bit. The power of soft skills. reliability, communication, teamwork, problem solving, adaptability, and positive attitude. Reliability. Please show up on time to your interviews. Show up on time for work. It's a big key.
That's the main thing.
Of course it is.
And on time, punctuality.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the quickest ways to get disqualified for an interview is to show up, even 5 minutes late, because,
Yeah.
they automatically.
Actually, it should be early.
Yeah, whether it was a mistake or not, they automatically said, well, that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
Again, next.
You need to study for an interview just like you would a test or something and be prepared for it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I believe so. I really do. I mean, I like you saying that because that is the truth. I mean, but communicating is a big key as well. And teamwork.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to work as a team.
Mhm.
You
A lot
have
of
to.
these jobs these days, for certain, especially how especially in like your corporate world, if you will, which a lot of the times that's more top. So a lot of things were top down. A lot of businesses are moving away from like that one manager type of setup to like a grouping of managers or more like a board for departments
Like
type of
board, yeah.
situation. So like it don't matter if you are the best one. If you can't work at a team in a setup like that one, you'll be in rough territory.
Right.
Rough territory.
Right. And this is a little brief explanation of soft skills, personal qualities, habits, behaviors that determine how well a person works with others and handles workforce
Yeah.
responsibilities. That's what it is. And that's a lot of times what kind of, people kind of struggle sometimes as well, right? Why do I say that? There's a couple of different types of employees, right? You got employee A, excellent technical skills, arrives late frequently, poor attitude, and struggles to work with others and avoids responsibility, But then you got employee B, which is, has an average, technical skill, shows up on time, communicates well, is respectful, and is willing to learn and works well with coworkers. So think about that. B can be taught. Some of these skills can be taught to be, because the work ethic is there. With A, it's a little different. It's a little different. So that's why you always want to be on time. You always want to make sure you meet deadlines, different things of that nature as well, and see that and be dependable. That's the thing. Be
Be
dependable.
honest.
Be dependable. Listening. A lot of times, about to listen when we talk about communication and listening. You have to be a good listener, and also speaking respectfully. I mean, it's one of the things about definitely in communication we need to do. By all means.
It is the soft skills that get people fired or having them losing jobs and things like that, much more than the technical skills and all of that good stuff, your hard skills, things taught to you.
Right.
Kind of biggest ones is not being there on time, not being able to manage your time, not being able to work in a team, communicate,
Yeah.
not being able to give good customer service, which goes back to your communication.
Yep.
All those things are soft skills that you get developed, all things that you can work on the daily basis.
They all kind of reflect each other.
Right, and definitely in the key word about communication, the supervisor explains the task, gives the instructions. Well, one employee pretends they understand and just makes all kinds of mistakes, while the other one, asks questions, clarifies the expectation. It's the difference. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think most managers, most supervisors aren't looking for someone that already knows everything about the job. They're looking for someone that's willing to learn how to do the job and ask the questions and actually cares.
I'm glad you said that, because here's the thing, even with me being a business owner, if I felt that you wasn't properly trained or that I need to explain it, I start explaining it right off the bat, right? Here's the problem. When I've already explained it that time, you never took a note, you never did any of that. Now we come back to it. Now my expectations may not be the same. Because here's the thing, and everybody here is different. Everybody here has a learning style that's way different than each other's, right? So I get that. I get that. But I just don't know about, unless you cannot write, and sometimes it's that case. But, we work on that. That's still communication. Well, you talk real fast, Don, or, that wasn't very clear. Okay, I get it. And I don't mind sitting down with you, clarifying what we're talking about, whatever. But when you take no notes, how do I know that? How do I know these things? I mean, I figure you know what's going on. But I think a lot of times people don't want to do it. And that's why I said, I brought up the scenario last week about a lady, or a couple weeks ago, about a lady, I had an interview with her, and she said she worked on computers. She had a good computer skills. She didn't know how to work a computer. She didn't know how to work it. And to the point where, I didn't say it become a problem because she learned, right? But it could have been a lot smoother if she just said she didn't. But I guess she didn't want to say that because, but I was just telling her what the job entails. So it was a job description of what it was. Well, she couldn't meet it. And poor lady was writing down a boatload of answers off the internet because didn't know how to copy and paste. I had to show her one day, hey, listen, you don't have to keep writing this stuff down. Just do this. Hit this button, copy that down and put it on the place. Still in that day, didn't really, she was cool, don't get me wrong, but acting like she didn't receive it, but she must have because she did it later on. And that's what I said, ask questions, communicate. Right. That's the big key. Don't go around struggling when you don't have to.
Exactly.
A lot of people do.
Your employer would much rather you take a little longer and ask a few more questions and do it the right way than to, rush through and really foul everything up.
Right. And that's the thing. And I do
People can be hurt, if you work in a dangerous job or anything like that, man, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know how to do it.
Right.
Ask questions if you don't know, because I've worked in some dangerous situations.
Yeah, you're right. And that's, to me, that goes hand in hand with a lot of things we speak about as well. It definitely goes hand in hand. But know what you're doing by being prepared.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm asking you, to be prepared in this interview, right? Try to be prepared as much as you can be.
Yeah.
Remember, being precise and short. Precise and short with things that, we can answer. Being professional.
Yep.
Being professional and making sure we understand, the questions they ask, and then remember, hitting and knocking out that first impression. Knocking that out, because that's a big thing. Handshakes we go over. How to handshake, those things as well.
Reliable transportation is a big one.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to worry about how I'm going to get you to work when your shift, starts. A common mistake, and you might be surprised, a common mistake a lot of young people made interviewing for entry level, manual labor jobs was showing up with a parent to the interview. You're entering into the adult workforce. You need to show up to the interview as an adult.
100%.
That's a good point.
100%.
That happened quite a bit.
Right. Another thing about interview, another topic, social media and employment. We've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
Employers are checking your social media.
Mm-hmm.
They just are.
They have access to it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That goes in right before right when that name goes across, when you might be a good candidate, they're gonna search that name up, see what you find.
It was a gentleman who, when we were doing transportation, and it was a gentleman who recommended someone to work. And I said, okay, and let's give them my number. They do. Somehow, when they called, on their tag, let's smoke something on it. So I'm like, what is this? It looked funny because instead of somebody's name, that's what came up. And so I thought it was a joke, but I answered it. It was that person. So, we spoke a little bit. We didn't end up doing an interview. We were going to do it on phone anyway, but we didn't end up even setting one up. And I called him back. Now, the weird part about this was it was a younger male who told me about, the person was gonna call. I mean, they were just trying to, said, I had a transportation with whatever. Well, I said, you might want to tell them to switch that. He was so embarrassed. And he was young. So it was, so he even knew, man, you don't have that stuff on there, I think he might have even been kin to her or something like that. I don't know, but he was like, what was on there? I said, yeah, it was on there. That was on there.
And whether I like it or don't, social media, almost everybody participates, and especially in an office setting, a lot of times a manager asks themselves, do I want to spend 8 hours a day with this person every day, Monday through Friday or not?
Right.
And so they are definitely going to go to social media for that,
100%.
too, so again, that's
100%.
part of your
I'm glad you
presentation.
said that. 100%.
Whether we like it or not.
And it is. And they're looking at the professional presence online. They're looking at it. They're looking at it. They're seeing what kind of post. I mean, because you have to think, like you said before, the interview is one thing, but what about working here? I mean, what about working? What if we didn't like people that wore pink shirts? I mean, what would we do then? I mean, what would we do? He wore it today. That's cool. Don't keep wearing that. I'm just saying different things like that. So, and people, I always tell people, and Mike has heard me say this, we try to be objective as, employees or employer. Try to be objective instead of subjective. Because when you're subjective, that's bringing a lot of that in there. I don't like this. I don't like that. But to me, I always think about, what if, it's all different walks of life in the world, right? So basically what we're going to do, let's have work on our mind. If we can have that in common, we got a lot of good things in common. Then, right, if we can have that work in common, I get it. But then we get into, the social media, like I said before. And this is beyond, well, I can do what I want to do. You can, if you feel that way, but you may not be hired.
Right.
When I worked at a certain organization, that's the first thing they did. Somebody turned in their application, Facebook. First thing they did went on Facebook. Oh, look at here, they smoke. Just right now, just different things like that. Drinking, different things like that. I'm like, you probably want to take that down. Yeah. But we're in a day and age now. Everybody wants. Sometimes, not everybody. I should say that. Don't forgive me. But a lot of people want to show what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that like I said before, that can't be, because they will hurt your opportunities very much so.
I will add in there, never, just like in a public place with the internet, never expect privacy. Okay, expect it to be there forever also, and that would change what you might put up there. Ask yourself. I tell this one to the young ones, would you want your grandmama to see it? Ask yourself that beforehand, But also, like, just be mindful of what you're doing on there, because you never know, people like playing video games, people like playing online games or chat rooms and things like that. You never know what other people are doing from the other side. I had an example of this one directly where I was sitting there. I scroll myself sometimes when I'm bored. I like to sit there and watch funny videos. And I'm sitting there scrolling. And I see a video of one of the young individuals we interact with where they didn't know they were getting recorded in the video by some content creator. They did some wild stuff in the video. And I was like, I seen them the following day, because it was when we had a bunch of classes going on. I said, I seen you in the video. You was wilding out. I was like, what? I don't post no wild things to social media. What are you talking about? I had saved the video and showed him so he could see my own example of saying, like, be mindful of what you do. Right. Because it was like Omega or Monkey, I think they call it, or something like that, where you can just video chat random people from around the world. He was getting recorded on there, didn't know. So be mindful of what you do at all times, because you never know where it's right.
They already have it, right?
Yeah.
And just ask this question, we move on. If an employer looked at your social media history, right, today, would it help you get hired, or would it hurt your chances? Now, you can take it the way you want to take it. I mean, I can do what I want to, then do it. You just probably don't get a job. You probably, when you're looking at these things and why I'm running into, certain things, certain walls that we can't, a lot of times it's that. It's not the fact, think about it. I mean, it's a lot of things you have to change. They talked about that as well. when we first talked about that, it talked about growth as well.
Mhm.
How are we growing? Oh, they just doing it because my record. No, it's not that. But look now. You still posting the, getting into it with
Yeah.
people and stuff like that too. That matters. That matters. Try to eliminate the red flags. I mean, try to eliminate. And what are these red flags? Once again, let's go over that a little bit. Arriving late. That's a red flag to someone, right?
It's the biggest.
And you know what though? I'll say this. Let's say, Nick had an interview today, right? At 2:00, right? Now I know my 2:00 is busy. It's 2 something now, right? Okay, well, if that's the case, I know I'm late anyway, because I'm in here, right, doing this. But Nick's out there waiting on me. But if he was late, right, somebody would say, hey, Mr. White will be late, he'll be here about 2:30. Guess what? If it's me, I'll be out here about that time. He'll be out. You know what I mean? So he could at least call, even if you are going to be late.
Yeah.
Instead of just showing up. Appropriate dress. Inappropriate dress can get you all the time. Now that you can.
Yes.
Never forget it though. And this got me to an employer. This gave me the of all the questions you asked. Remember when we was talking about to dress like when you dress up, kind of dress a level up, for the job you get. It was a business job I was trying to get at this company. I won't say the name, but the first interview question the lady asked me was, because I had a suit on and a tie, do you always dress like that? But I'm pretty sure she was trying to gain a reaction. I didn't react, other than the fact I just answered, I'm here for a job interview. This is how you dress for a job interview. That's all I told her. But it was one of those things where it did take me for a loop. I'm like,
Caught you off.
I'm like, because I guess, but that, that's a lot. I mean, like I said before, I ended up getting the job, but that's just one of the things that you have to, understand. Having that negative attitude, she could have been looking at that more than anything, right? More than anything. So I didn't have one, so it went well when it came to that. And I actually got to have a year's experience in the business office, which I had never done before in my life. So, one of those things. Not following directions as well. It's one of the things. Me and Mike went to something over at ACT. We went to some interviews, right? They gave us a set of things that they supposed to have. Lack of preparation was one of the things. Now he got a little different with it. Now he got a little different with it. He is all over people. But me, I had a little more because a couple of them were nervous and things like that. But it was pretty mock anyway, but it was still good experience for them in case they did go on, into an employer. They might go into an employer that, wants everything, wants the sheets tucked in and the quarter flip off of. They might want that, right? But they also might want one that just wants your bed fixed or whatever. But kind of looking neat. So lack of preparation is one of those things. You have to understand that. These are some, red flags in a mock interview that might come up. This is the way, but the way to handle it is the way we're trying to talk to you about these things and trying to tell you these things. And that's a lot of it as well, but the lack of not following directions, that's one of those things too, that, that gets me because, one thing, like I was telling you, this is more like when you are employed more than in an interview, but if I'm, giving you clear instructions, but I'm not, I was telling some people earlier, I'm not an over the top of your shoulder type boss or a micromanager, right? Nick, I tell you, can you do this for me? I let it go. Nick ain't wrote a thing down. He ain't wrote nothing down. And guess what? I don't say a thing the whole day about it. The next day I ask him, you get that done? And look, he looks at it like you're looking now. No, because he didn't write it down, right? So that's that. So here's the thing. I'm not looking to catch him in anything. Don't get me wrong. Because guess what I've told Nick before in other meetings? Not only Nick, Chad, Mike, please get you a pen and pad so you can write some stuff down. I can't put the pad in your hand. I guess I could, but why would I do that, right? I mean, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Right. So once you do that's a lot of to follow directions though. That's it. But guess what? There might be my directions. But here's the thing. I'm not saying that there's been many times when people have said, you think you want to do it that way? And guess what? I listen. Communication. I listen, right? So, I mean, but you have to have that communication. But that's the same thing with an employer. They have to be able to listen too, right? Now, during an interview, you probably don't want to go that way. Because it's their company, right? And you might have some great ideas for them. You might want to say those for a little time later, whatever. 100%. I think it's 100%.
Yeah, and you just touched on what I feel like is a common mistake is a lot of people come in way too strong. I'm hiring you for an entry level position, and you come into an interview talking about what you're going to do to fix the company. That's probably not a good look, I even would say from an interviewer standpoint, I would rather see somebody a little bit of nerves, because I know I'm going to be able to train them. I know they care.
Yeah.
Than just someone that's coming in day one, want to just take over everything.
100%. I think, building that confidence, practicing, you got to practice some of these things too, these interviews as well. Practice, man.
Yeah.
Practice as we finish up, practice, man. A lot of these things, That's where the confidence comes from. The confidence comes from that.
There's been a few interviews I went to. I wish I would have practiced before I studied.
I'll say that just like extra practice that individuals can do, I'll name drop this one, or I typically wouldn't just because it's a good article, but there's an article on Indeed where you can look up 20 most common interview questions, and on there it'll give you what the employer is looking for, a good example from the question, and at that point or a good example answer, and then at that point you should write down your answer to those common interview questions, because that will have you outright make it into your head, gives you something that you can practice with, stand in front of a mirror, practice, do some research on the company, and all those things will help your nervousness come down because you're more and more prepared.
Plus, whatever you're applying for, you can do a mock interview for that job.
100%. Some couple things. Tell me about yourself. That's one question, right? Why should we hire you? What's your greatest strength, or what is your weakness you need to work on, right? Describe a challenge that you had to overcome in the past. That's it. Those are some things. Just so definitely some mock interview kind of questions you could have yourself prepared for and be ready for.
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one there at the end. They say, do you have any questions for us?
Right. I mean, what will make you feel confident? That's the whole thing. I always go back to school. You're a lot more confident at the test you study for. Didn't say it went the way you want to go, but you sure was a lot really, really confident about it, right? Before you did that. So that's the thing. So,
I say kind of tagging on to that one, be yourself. People are always more confident when you're outright full-blown being yourself.
Yeah.
Do that inside of the interview too. You don't have to outright necessarily show everything, but having your personality in there goes back into what the employers are looking for. They're not going to have no person in there that they're going to find completely boring, that's not going to mesh with the team that they have there, or whatever it might be. So show your personality a little bit. It'll go a long way inside of the interview.
Definitely.
A lot of people kind of get that. Okay, my name is so-and-so. This is what I do. This is why I'm here. Yada, yada, yada. Don't do all that. Be calm. Be yourself. Answer your question how you would if you wasn't in an interview.
Right. And, just closing out, I really just want to, thank you all for being here. I really, just for the viewers, the people that watch us, prepare, for common questions during an interview, right?
Definitely.
Dress appropriately, dress professionally, and present yourself well. This is what we're asking you to do, right? Be honest about your past while focusing on your growth in your future, right? And have that confidence, right? By practicing preparation is what I want to speak about. I really want to shout out, Keanu Moore, who is the executive director of Just a Bunch of Felons. And, like I said, we in partnership with him to teach workplace readiness and financial literacy. And like I said, for a while, we may not do it this month, signees, we're going to keep going. And I think that's why we had the show to keep, understand that, I appreciate her. I'm super proud of her. I think that, we're going to keep on going. I don't let, what we're doing now, and sometimes not, participation, that's not, going to stop, especially if you have a mission, right? And, our mission is, get the information out to the community, positive information out, right? Add new people on, that are willing to come on, right? And speak about things that, sometimes we don't always speak about, right? But so if you watch this today, I'm not saying I ain't gonna say it was the most watched show. I ain't saying that either, but you can never walk away not having at least a playlist of how to be prepared for any interview for anyone, right?
Yeah.
So we were definitely, I told you when we first started this, it wasn't only about a person who had just recently got out of prison. It's also for a young, like somebody young who had never had a job, or somebody who wants to change the position and get into another atmosphere in the workplace, right? So remember those things. Remember, definitely remember that, it matters. It matters. Preparation matters. Just like when we say it does matter as well. I want to thank, everybody for listening. We have a few things coming up. We definitely have Camp Elevate starts June 15th for TSK. That's going to be a big time. Camp Elevate is going to be a big time, big joyous time. We're going to have the limit 25 youth that are going to, area youth that will come and, they'll be over definitely at the Multicultural Center on Washington Street, 100 not Washington Street. And you can go to our website. We have a QR code to sign up. Like I said before, it's a super great camp. That's what super great counselors. Like I said, it's a good experience for the kids. It's the second year we've been doing it. And like I said, I'm super excited for it as well. I praise God the fact we've been able to do it as well. We have a couple more things we're going to roll out. TSK prevention for life, literacy for life. We're going to, definitely roll that out. We just received a $50,000 definitely donation for an award for, this actual mission that we're going to do, which is kind of blend in literacy with recovery as well. And for the youth as well. So trying to do the preventive side more than the reactive side. I mean, there's people out there doing great reactive stuff as well, but let's get it before we have to do that. And I think that's the key as well. And we'll have some other things coming up as well. We got some real powerful guests coming up next 2 weeks. So look out, look on Facebook, YouTube as well. We'll be on there, like I said before, with some great, interviews. Definitely different things, that people are trying, different avenues. We can never stop trying, right? We can never stop trying to help. We can never stop trying to serve. We can never stop trying to, bring on people that definitely can grow and people can see that you can step out there and do anything, right? And with the right preparation. Let's get that right with the right preparation. So this is the end, Collective Conversations, and thank you until next week.